Nothing contained in this podcast should be considered a substitute for professional medical advice. This content does not represent our respective employers and is purely the opinion of the podcast hosts. We are not your personal medical providers. Sorry, friends. So, if you have concerns or are seeking a diagnosis or treatment, please seek individual advice from a healthcare provider in your area. We are not liable for any risks associated with acting upon the information contained in this podcast. This is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only, so enjoy the ride.
Please drink responsibly and in moderation. Before drinking, please be sure to be of the legal drinking age for your country. We do not encourage the misuse of alcohol.
Welcome to Medical Media Mixer, the perfect cocktail. I'm Nicole Peniston, psychologist.
And I'm Tara Prisco, physician assistant. All right. How's it going?
It's going. For those of you guys watching on YouTube, I don't know if we post that anymore, or looking at pictures, Tara got her hair did, and she got new glasses.
I did.
She's so pretty.
Yeah. You know, I got the hair blown out by shout out to Kristen at Black Cat's hair studio. She listens.
Fun.
And I can see because
Yay.
my prescription is updated. So that's always good.
Vision is important. So yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. So anything upcoming going on? Anything other than...
Well, there's a big wine festival this weekend that I'm really looking forward to going to.
Ooh.
So hopefully that'll happen. I had invited multiple people, yourself included, and many people couldn't make it, but it seems like 2 people might be able to come. So I'm hoping, because it looks like it's going to be a nice weekend so far. They're predicting that storms and stuff will be past by then and it won't be quite as hot. So it should be fun. But I've gone to this particular wine festival a couple years in a row and it's just very chill. It's outdoors. It's in the summer. There's like tons of food trucks. There's live music. It's like an all day event. So it's just really cool to just like sit outside with like a glass of wine and chill. So I'm looking forward to that.
Sounds ideal.
Yes.
I like it.
Yes. I hope it works out. So
I will be... Is it Saturday or Sunday?
It's both days.
Oh, okay. So Saturday I'll be flying to South Carolina and Sunday we'll be hopefully sitting there looking at the ocean. Weather permitting, the storm should have passed there. We're recording a month ahead, so this is when Hurricane Erin's chilling in the Atlantic, but I think we'll be golden by then.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Yeah. Myrtle Beach area, like we're going to be just south of there and that area does flood. We were there a couple of years ago and like their roads just like flooding everywhere.
Yeah.
So hopefully it'll get rain. But I'm looking forward to a week of reading, playing board games, going on to the beach and just chilling.
Yeah. Sounds
what you need.
Like a nice weekend, nice getaway.
Yeah, it's what you need for sure. And then I don't think I told you this. I booked a year from now. Did I tell you my trip that I booked a year from now?
You told me off the pod that you were considering it. So now it's a thing.
So yes, I have officially booked an Alaska cruise land tour with children and in-laws and husband next summer. So I'm very excited. That'll be really cool.
That is really exciting.
Yeah, adventuring. Let's get out there.
Yeah.
I'd rather spend my money on doing things like that.
Yes. Fun things. Yes. And speaking of, we're moving forward on our Sedona trip in the winter. So
that's cool.
Plans are coming together. I'm getting excited. So
yeah, you need to take some beautiful pictures.
Yes.
Lots of spa and wine and pretty scenery.
Yes.
Basically.
I found this really cool tour where it is a winery tour where like a bus like takes you to 4 different like local wineries, but they also do like tarot card readings on the bus. And then they take you to like one of like the vortex spots where it's like supposed to be super spiritual, like in the midst of drinking. I was like, I can't think of anything better.
Maybe you'll connect with someone or something. I don't know.
Girl, I'm going to connect with me and she's going to be real ready for that. So
the vortex, does that mean it's like thinning between the worlds? Is that what it means?
I haven't done my research because I kind of wanted to go into it blind, but I do believe there is some mysticism connected to that specific area. And then I had heard on our fun friends, and that's why we drink. I think they were talking about like certain areas across the world that have more, like you said, like a thinner veil or more
the
mystical.
ley lines, maybe.
The ley lines, yeah. So
wait, guess what shirt I'm wearing?
What?
And that's why we drink.
Nice.
It's their Poor Decisions tour, which is actually the day that we finally decided we were actually going to make this podcast when we went to go see them. That's pretty funny.
So thanks
that I'm
to
them. They are inspirational.
Cheers to them. Cheers to Em and Christine.
Yes.
We love you guys.
Yeah.
So yeah, I believe that it was mentioned on one of their episodes about ley lines that Sedona is one of them. But there's
Okay.
a bajillion ley lines. So. But it'll be something fun and different to do. And a
That
girls'
makes
trip.
me think, because I just was binging the most recent season of Outlander, came out on Netflix, so I like watched it, and now the new one we got to wait for. But like those portals essentially in time, and they're saying, is that on the ley lines? Same kind of concept, like things are sort of more open.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Like, I'm sure I'll look a little bit more into it between now and then, but like, I got stuff to do. But also, like, out there, they have like UFO tours, they have ghost tours. They have a lot of like cool stuff to do.
Yeah, I think UFO when I think of like out west, sort of.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess that's because of where is it called?
Oh my gosh.
Area 51.
Well, then I'm guessing you didn't watch the train wreck episode of Storm Area 51.
I don't know.
It was insanity. So. Spoiler alert, they didn't actually storm Area 51.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about. Like people who want,
A bunch of people showed up and they just had a party in the desert and that was it.
Yeah, I kind of remember this whole ordeal.
I feel like that was not of our generation. We didn't have time for that shenanigans.
No. Oh my goodness. So I hear we're doing part 3 of the kidnapping trilogy.
Yes, part 3 of the kidnapping trilogy. These kidnappings are not actually related. I just found 3 separate stories and they all had to do with kidnapping. So this is the third.
You were inspired.
I was. And so technically this was the second thing that I watched. I don't remember the order, but like what I talked about in my last episode, I had seen like forever ago. So I was just kind of stirring that back up. And then same thing with the Chowchilla bus incident. I learned about that in grad school. So this one I came upon like more recently and I'd never heard this story before. And it's so crazy. But I actually found it through my favorite network and yours, the Lifetime Movie Network. So that gives you a little taste of what shenanigans we're about to get
is this
into.
like dramatized? Like
no,
crazy,
this real
right?
story is Lifetime.
The real story is crazy, but yeah, okay.
The real story is 100% Lifetime worthy. But let's start off with my drink.
Cocktails.
My drink it's actually called Aroxy's Truth and Lies, but I was just going off of Truth and Lies. I don't know who Aroxy is. It comes from Chef James Walt's cookbook titled Aroxy Roots to Shoots Farm Fresh Recipes, in stores now. So my cocktail, the recipe itself is to make a pitcher, which is 6 glasses. So I kind of reduced it. So I'm just going to read you the pitcher ingredients because that's what I have in front of me. But for the socials, I did cut it down to what to make one cocktail would be. I just can't math that right now for you guys. Sorry. I would say it's been a long day, but I couldn't math it for you on a great day. So it's fine. So to make a pitcher of it, you're going to either make or purchase lavender infused simple syrup. I was able to purchase it. I actually already had it. I didn't have to buy it for this cocktail. Or you could just make it with a cup of simple syrup and a half a cup of dried lavender. You've talked about your simple syrup go-to in the microwave before.
Yep.
But then it also includes grapefruit juice, vodka, Cointreau, lime juice, ice cubes, and club soda to top, optional. I did top mine with it just because with all of those liquors in it, it's a little bit potent. It doesn't taste potent, but I could tell it would be dangerous if I drank it straight.
Okay.
So basically, I just put all the liquids into a cocktail shaker, shook it with ice until chilled, strained into a glass, and then topped with just a touch of club soda. It looks like you would... if you're following this recipe and then dividing it by 6, it would be topping with 2 ounces of club soda, but they also said to put it in a coupe glass, and I don't have 2 ounces worth left in here.
No, yeah, there's not enough room
I just
for
did
that.
like a splash.
Yeah.
But it's actually very delicious, and I know we're still searching for our perfect cocktail, but I feel like this should be a contender because it's pretty good.
All right. I like it. Well, I think the lavender is like something that we need, and so I think that goes. So it was lavender, Cointreau. What else was in there?
Grapefruit and vodka and lime.
Vodka. Okay, yeah, I could see that.
So it's kind of like almost like a lavendery margarita-ish, except with vodka instead of tequila. But pretty tasty.
The citrus. Cool.
So
I ended up just making a little spritzer that raspberry rosé from our winery,
Good
little
stuff.
lemonade, and a little sparkling water just to water it down, keep it light.
Yeah, sounds good. So the movie that I watched, as I alluded to, a Lifetime Movie Network original, is called The Girl Who Wasn't Dead.
Okay.
So with a title like that, how can you not want to watch it, right?
So I assume she was alive.
Well, she wasn't dead. That's what we know from the title.
Okay.
So about the movie, I'm just reading it right off it because this movie was a whirlwind. I'm trying to keep the profanity out because there were a lot of F-bombs as I was watching it. I was like,
Okay.
what?
It's okay. We have an explicit rating.
That's true.
Just in case.
But still. So basically, the movie it is the fictionalized version of a true story. So in the movie, Erica is 15 years old and she suddenly vanishes without a trace. The authorities believe that she might be a victim of a local serial killer, but her mother, Carrie, has refused to believe that she's missing. So do you want to know the movie plot or do you want to know the real story? There's parallels.
You tell me the easiest way to get the info. I don't know. You're good at storytelling.
The movie plot is Erica in the movie, Erica and her mom live together, and then her mom has a boyfriend. I don't believe they're actually married. I don't think it's like her stepdad, but it's her not dad in the picture. They are butting heads all the time because she's a typical teenager, doesn't want to listen, wants to do her own thing, won't clean her room, blah, 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 the usual stuff. So her and her stepfather are butting heads. Her mother is taking the stepfather's side a lot. So that leaves Erica feeling like alienated, like she's not part of this. And then we come to find out that her boyfriend, who is referenced multiple times. So again, Erica's 15. Her boyfriend is 19. So he's sort of a grown ass adult, but not really. But basically, he's much older than her. He's not in high school anymore. And her parents aren't loving that, but they haven't outright refused the two of them to see each other. But at some point, Erica's behavior is going so off the wall that she kind of like gets grounded. And it's like, no, you can't see your boyfriend. You can't do this. You can't do that. So that is when Erica disappears. Well, as you've guessed, Erica didn't actually disappear. She ran away to her boyfriend's house.
Of course.
And according to the Lifetime movie, hardcore guilt tripped him into letting her stay with him for 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah. That was the part where I was like, okay, a night or two I get, maybe even like a month. Yeah. Multiple years this bitch is staying at his house.
Years.
And like not wanting to leave. This is as per the Lifetime movie. So I'm putting in the context of that. And so I kept watching this and I'm thinking like, I gotta be missing something. Like maybe she's like special needs and doesn't like understand that she can't do this because she really just show up at his house with her stuff. And she's like, I'm going to stay over the night. And he's like, is that cool with your parents? She's like, no. And he's like, well, okay, just the night. And then it's like just the next night and the next night and the next night and whatever. And of course, the longer it goes on, the harder it is for this guy because he's like, now I have this missing girl living in my house. And if I tell someone, I'm going to get in trouble and all of this stuff. So he's really stuck between a rock and a hard place. But for all intents and purposes in the movie, he's not doing anything to her. They're basically just living that boyfriend-girlfriend life. Like he's not holding her hostage. He's not locking her in the house. He's just doing himself, and his girlfriend just happens to live with him and just happens to be a teenager. So as time goes on, he starts to get more aggravated with her, more upset. And then she kind of like flips it around on him. And she's like, well, but I can't leave because if I leave, you're going to get in trouble because you shouldn't have me here. And so like, you can't tell anyone. And it's like very like manipulative, like weird. Yeah. Again, this is in the Lifetime movie. But essentially at some point, the boyfriend, he's just so over it that he essentially confesses to his friend that this missing girl, who now they think is dead and a victim of a local serial killer. So this serial killer is now going to trial and they have added her name to his list of victims.
Wow.
Yeah, so they've like...
How does that even happen?
They've essentially like declared her dead without having a body and even without her family saying like, yes, we think she's dead. It's basically like, we got to catch this guy. We got to put him away. As many names as we can associate him with is like going to get that slam dunk and get him.
So that's so weird because I mean, I'm into true crime like you and there's plenty of cases where they can't list everybody that they pretty much know is because they don't have enough evidence.
Again, it's a Lifetime movie, so it's a dramatization. So I'm sure there's parts of that in there. But essentially, this man is going to trial for her murder and her mom is in the courtroom. And so to back up, because in the movie, they do it like in tandem of like what's happening with the trial and then what's happening with Erica and the boyfriend. But it actually happens that at some point, the boyfriend confesses to his friend that he's got this kidnapped girl. And at first his friend thinks he's joking. And then he's like, I don't know, this is weird. So now the boyfriend is freaking out because he's like, well, I told somebody. So like the jig is up. We're going to get in trouble. So I believe the friend reports him, and then the police come to his house to do a check. And he, does what the police say, like he lets them search and everything. And they find Erica hiding in a cupboard. So she becomes known as the girl in the cupboard because they think she's been in there for years. No, this bitch just climbed in there like 5 minutes before the police showed up.
Do we know how far away the boyfriend lives from
in the same town?
Is it like... Okay.
This is the craziest fucking story ever. So they find her in the cupboard and, the police take her out and everything. But what the police do in the Lifetime movie, there's no way they'd be able to get away with this in real life. But essentially, they don't tell her family that she's been rescued. Mm-hmm. They keep her in hiding at the police station. And I don't think like it's forever. I think it's maybe a matter of a couple of days. And then they're having this trial for the serial killer, and he has to answer for these charges, and they're listing the names of victims. Meanwhile, Erica's mom is in the courtroom, like ready to hear this man confess to killing her daughter, even though she doesn't believe her daughter's dead. And who walks up in the courtroom but Erica and the police?
Wow.
She shows up to testify at her own murder trial because bitch ain't dead, and she was never kidnapped by the serial killer.
I'm so confused, though. Wouldn't the police want to keep her hiding so they can nail the guy and then bring her out later? Like, let him get convicted? I mean, it would get overturned anyway, I guess, right?
It's a whole thing. But essentially, he still gets convicted for his thing. It's just they clear his name for her.
Okay.
Which I feel like that's the right thing to do.
That's
like, yes, he's
correct.
a serial killer, but like, if she's alive, how are you going to convict somebody of her murder? Like, she's legit. It's right there.
Right. Yeah.
So the movie ends with her essentially like moving back home and trying to be like normal. I guess at this point she's 17, 15, 16, 17. Yeah, like 17, almost 18. She's still a minor at this point. So she moves back home, but things are real rocky between her and her mom. And I believe the stepdad has left at this point. But like in her and her brother, they don't really get along. They feel very betrayed by her. And she, in the Lifetime movie, she never says why she did this for so long. There's never any like issue like, oh, she has mental health problems or, cognitive problems. Like, it's just like, well, that's what she did and it sucked, which does not add up in real life. But essentially, after staying at home for a little while, she goes back to the boyfriend. But now everybody knows. It's not like a secret. And they end up getting married and live a little life together. And that's the end of the Lifetime movie.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
yeah. She tore up everybody's life.
Yeah, and just kept going about her business, like no issue.
Her poor mother.
Yeah. So after watching that, and of course, Lifetime movie based on a true story, I was like, okay, what is the real shit here? Mm-hmm. So turns out this Lifetime movie was based on the story of Natasha Ryan, who was nicknamed the girl in the cupboard. So her story, very, very similar, but basically she was declared a missing person after leaving home as a teenager, and she was presumed to be murdered by a local serial killer, and she was found alive in her boyfriend's cupboard 5 years after she disappeared.
Oh, wow.
And so this became like big giant news in Australia. This is where it all took place, in Queensland. And so, but for her family, they got a lot of crap about this. Like, why would she do this? What's going on with her? At some point, she changes her name to Tosh, like Tash, like as in Natasha, Tosh Black. She gets married to I believe it's the different man. It's not the boyfriend who she originally left with. And so essentially, for all intents and purposes, the Lifetime movie is what happened. There's a little bit more details with things like that. So like, for example, she was reported missing in 1998 when she was 14. She was presumed to be murdered and the target of serial killer Leonard John Fraser, who was apparently at one point actually charged with her murder. And he even confessed to killing her, even though like the police were like, this doesn't add up. Like, you don't know the details or whatever like that. And so, I'm sorry. The man who was her husband is the boyfriend, who was named Scott Black. And he was a milkman, which I think is very sweet. I didn't know they still had milkmen in the 90s in Australia, but apparently they did.
Okay.
So, and he was 22 at the time. So definitely a bigger age gap than there was in the movie. And I distinctly remember that about the movie because there was a lot of references to like, well, they met when they were in high school together, but he graduated and she was still there. And like, they were kind of like playing it off like it's not that big of a deal.
Right, like a freshman senior kind of a
sort
deal.
Of, yeah.
Which at least somewhat logically okay.
Somewhat. I mean, and it really all depends on the jurisdiction that you're in, but statutory rape, usually it varies between 5 and 7 years, depending on the age difference. So, and they don't really talk about any of that in this because, as we find out, she was willingly going. Like, he wasn't kidnapping her. Like, there was no wrongdoing on his end of things.
She was kidnapping herself.
Essentially, yeah. So, and the funny thing is that when they started looking for her, that's when they started finding these other women and these other bodies. So essentially, she kind of helped them track down the serial killer, even though he had nothing to do with her.
Okay.
It's just coincidence. Like, she didn't plan this. Oh, and her family, the real story, her family had been so convinced that she was dead that they actually held a memorial for her on her 17th birthday. So that was after she was missing for 3 years, and she ended up being missing for 5 years. Police received an anonymous tip in April 2003 that she was alive. At that point, she was 18, and she was found cowering in a cupboard of the home of the boyfriend, who was then 26. Mm-hmm. And then it was revealed that she had been hiding in his house for almost the entirety of the 5 years. And she said that she had been outdoors only 6 times in the last 4 years.
Wow.
But again, like, he's not keeping her there. So, like, this is her choice. Like, she could have went out in the backyard.
Right.
And then, so the house always had heavy curtains drawn. In lieu of schooling, she learned to sew and practice German on the internet.
Okay.
She rarely left the house. And if she did, it was only under the cover of darkness to go to the beach. And apparently, in real life, they had moved multiple times, but her last house was just a few kilometers from her family home. Don't ask me how many miles that is. It's close.
Let's not math that.
It's close.
But, like, when she went missing, wasn't the first thing, let me go check out the boyfriend's house? Like, that just
So in
sounds
the Lifetime movie, they do interview him, and he plays dumb and is like, I don't know where she is. Like, how can I help?
Okay.
And I think probably what worked in his favor is, like, he didn't kidnap her, so he's not lying. He's just not saying, hey, she's sleeping in my house, you know?
Yeah. And though, like them, like the family, when they're doing like flyers looking for her, even when they're doing a memorial, having the boyfriend involved, like that to me sounds like it would have been.
After a while, he wasn't as involved. Initially, he was involved in the initial search, but then, like, when years later they're having a memorial, he really wasn't having any contact with the family.
Right. But you know what I mean? Like, it's so weird.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. Like, interviewers had asked her, like, didn't you ever try to call home or anything like that? And she said that she had called home several times, but then just wouldn't speak. She would just, like, call and then, like, hang up the phone. And she said that she was really scared of the consequences. I thought I would have been sent to prison, either to prison or a bad place. Which, again, that's where I was like, okay, maybe she's, you know, intellectually disabled or has some, like, mental health issues and doesn't, like, understand. But, like, much like in the movie, she really doesn't seem to give a damn. Like, yeah, I ran away and it was bad and it was a problem, but, like, who cares? So after she, you know, was discovered and testified and blah, 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 they did end up sending the boyfriend to jail for a year. But then when he was released, they did get married and they had a child together. So, I mean, I don't know if it's better or worse that, like, it was actually, like, a relationship that lasted, but it did.
I don't know.
And, like, by all accounts, like, from the husband, like, he didn't do anything harmful to her. It was more like he was helping her hide. And then because she was hiding for so long, it was like, okay, well, we can't say anything. So it does seem like she was safe. She wasn't being abused in any way. But the serial killer, Leonard Fraser, so he was sentenced to life without parole for the murders of 2 women, a 9-year-old girl and the manslaughter of another woman. So she would have been his 3rd known victim, but they allege that he had other victims that he never confessed to or anything like that. And then for her part in it, Natasha was fined $1,000 and found guilty of causing a false police investigation. So that was all she got for all of that.
Just $1,000. That's all.
Yeah. So then in 2008, that was when they got married, and she changed her name to Tosh Black, taking his last name and then shortening her first name because she was tired of being known as the girl in the cupboard.
Yeah.
And she said, I made mistakes and I'm sorry that I hurt my family, but now I want to start a new life. And it's just kind of like, really? Feels a little like sociopathy on my end. I'm not diagnosing. I'm just saying what it feels like.
Yeah, a little bit.
But she went on to study nursing, and she worked as a radiology nurse until there's another plot twist.
Uh-oh.
She was mysteriously found dead on a golf course.
What?
Yeah. And they feel like it was non-suspicious circumstances. I don't know if it was like a drug overdose or an illness or something, but they said it was non-suspicious. But she was found, like, just dead on a golf course. And I believe that was in 2013. I might have the dates wrong, but yeah. So that's how that crazy story ends, with an even crazier ending. Yeah.
That's kooky.
Yeah.
So she's probably a contemporary of ours, right? You're saying in the 90s she was in high school.
So she was born May 9th, 1984.
That's a little younger. Okay.
And she died June of last year, June 2024.
24.
Yes.
On a golf course.
And the police found her when they were doing a welfare check. So that's why I felt like maybe there was some health
There's
or mental health issue, something going on for police to go on a welfare check. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the thing that like was so mysterious for me. They never like confirmed if there was any mental health reasons or something else going on for her to do this for so long.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of a really bizarre story. Yeah. Supposedly they had signed a deal with Women's Day magazine to cover their wedding, but that never actually happened. So they were thinking like, oh, maybe they did this for whatever.
To get money. Yeah.
But then apparently at the actual wedding, there was strict security and guests were not allowed to take photos or anything like that. So it's like, maybe they went back and forth.
Or maybe they wanted exclusive rights so that only they could sell the pictures.
Yeah. So when Natasha passed, she was 40 years old.
Yeah.
So she had quite a whirlwind of a life. So you're probably thinking, why the heck are you talking about this?
What's the psychological tie-in here?
So the psychological tie-in is to talk about real missing and exploited children.
Okay.
There's a lot of crazy statistics out there. So as of 2023 in Australia, because we were just talking about them, nearly 37,000 children were reported missing in Australia in 2023. In Canada, it was 32,860 missing children in 2024. I have stats for Germany, France, India, Italy, Kenya, which I honestly thought, like knowing how there's a lot of political kidnapping of children and things like that in the African countries, I was surprised it wasn't a higher number, but maybe they're counting those people separately because they know, who's behind it. And same thing with, in Gaza and Ukraine, where in those war-torn countries, there tend to be a lot more politically motivated kidnappings. Where this is, I believe the stats are on just regular kidnappings. Not that it really makes a difference, honestly. If your kid's missing, your kid's missing.
Kidnapping's kidnapping.
Yeah. And in 2024, in the United States, 330,597 children went missing in that year.
So here's a question. I mean, this sounds weird, but back when we were younger, like the kid on the back of the milk container, like that was your way of like, and then they would do like the age progression pictures and whatever, like, or on TV, they would show at the end of the news program. But like now, I don't feel like there's like a way that everything is disseminated, right?
There is, that you're just forgetting about it because we're so used to it. There's an Amber Alert.
Oh, Amber Alert when they acutely go missing, right? Yes.
But so every child that has an Amber Alert, their case is taken over to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. In
It's
conjunction
just like,
with the police or the FBI or whoever's involved. So like they're following the case, but the Amber Alert was a big change in finding children in that short amount of time.
Right.
Which, if you like, I can talk briefly about Amber Hagerman.
Yeah, where that came about. Yeah.
Do you know the story of Amber?
I just know that that's where we got it from, and that I think her family.
Yeah, so I'll put it in a nutshell.
Got the bill passed.
Yeah. So Amber Hagerman was the child who the Amber Alert was named after, and it's also called the Child Abduction Emergency Alerts. Also called the SAME code, SAME. I don't know exactly what that stands for. Oh, Specific Area Message Encoding System. That's what SAME stands for. So Amber was 9 years old when she was abducted from Arlington, Texas, and found murdered 4 days later. There's other regional alerts that were based off of other local cases. So in Georgia, there was Levi's Call in memory of Levi Frady. In Hawaii, it was Malay Amber Alert in memory of Malay Gilbert. In Arkansas, the Morgan Nick Amber Alert after Morgan Nick. Utah, the Rachel Alert after Rachel Runman. And in Idaho, Monkey's Law in memory of Michael Monkey Joseph Vaughn. Monkey was his nickname. And so, as many people already know, an Amber Alert is when there is a siren on internet radio stations, satellite radio, television, text messages, and cable TV that is calling your attention. And then they'll give you information about the child. An Amber Alert is only for children. The child that is missing, Usually they'll give you their basic statistics, who or where they were last seen, and then typically how long they've been gone, but sometimes that detail is not part of it. And in some states, they use the front of lottery machines also as an Amber Alert, which I think is pretty cool.
And I think you see them on like the highway above.
Yeah, on like the billboards. Yeah.
Look for this car or whatever.
Yeah, that's usually a silver alert you'll see on the highway, but still they'll do it for an Amber Alert.
Well, yeah, because often it's another parent taking the child if there's a custody thing.
Right, so that's a big thing, the difference between stranger abductions and family abductions, which stranger abductions are much more rare.
Of course, yeah.
So an example on the Wikipedia page for Amber, it shows what is displayed in New Jersey on the cable systems. So it says emergency details. A civil authority has issued a child abduction emergency for the following counties and areas at the time, on the date, and when it is effective till. So in those situations, when they do rescue a child, they will take it down and they'll message that the alert has ended. So they'll let people know to stop looking. And then to avoid false alarms or wolf cries, they have very strict criteria for issuing an alert. And so if you're thinking about this, we hear these Amber Alerts very quickly after it happens. So they need to meet like a checklist of criteria before it'll reach that national or international service. And so some of those criteria are law enforcement must confirm that an abduction has taken place. The child must be at risk of serious injury or death. There must be sufficient description of the child, captor, or captor's vehicle, and the child must be under the age of 18, which I think would be concerning if you are the parent or loved one of someone who's special needs who is over 18. That can be tricky. Some states will make the call and just cross that up. Others will not. So Amber was 9 years old. Like I said, she was abducted while riding her bike in Arlington, Texas. She was with her younger brother, Ricky, and she said that she wanted to stay in the parking lot for a while.
I remember this.
Bike. Yes.
Yeah.
And her brother went home, and then her grandfather saw him going home alone. And when they went back to where she was in the parking lot, they only found her bicycle.
Yeah, I remember that part now.
And a neighbor who lived in the house nearby witnessed the entire abduction and immediately called 911.
Right.
During the hearing, Mark Kloss, the father of Polly Kloss, another famous case, had called Amber's dad to console him and give support and advice. So that was really sweet that was one family reaching out to another. And then 4 days later, a man walking his dog found Amber's body in a creek behind an apartment complex, and she had been murdered. And she was found less than 5 miles from where she was abducted, and her murder was never solved.
I didn't realize it was never solved.
Yeah.
Wow.
So there's a lot of like really famous cases like this that have led to legislation, but Amber Alert is one of the bigger ones that a lot of people know about. And Amber Alerts have gone international. I believe they do have different names depending on the jurisdiction, but just that idea has really spread. One of the cases that is local to us that maybe I'll cover at some point, even though we're not a true crime podcast, is Megan's Law. That happened actually in a town near where I live. And that's another famous case that led to a lot of legislation that has moved not just from New Jersey, but also federally into other countries as well. So the Amber Alerts, as I was saying, that's something that has been enacted to try to rescue children so that way they're not gone. We've all heard the statistics that the longer that children are gone, the less likely it is that they'll be recovered alive. Those statistics vary. It really depends on the age of the child, who the abductor was. So a lot of times the parent is less likely to harm or kill the child, although it does happen. We know that. But, they have more skin in the game. It's their child. They're protective. And a lot of times, as you alluded to, it's like a custody dispute. They want to get back at the other spouse or something like that.
So, and then obviously that's specifically for kidnapping, but for things like runaways or just missing, we don't know why, like that falls into a whole nother category of like they're missing, but we don't know why or how.
Yeah. So there's lots of different areas, other types of missing. And there's going to be links in the show notes to missingkids.org, which is the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. And they also have the International Center for Missing and Exploited Children. So those links will be in there. But different types of missing children, interestingly, on here would be we didn't really talk about this too much, although I did cover it in an episode, is autism and wandering. So this would be more elopement or children with special needs who have now left their area and it's hard to find because maybe they're non-speaking or nonverbal, and or maybe they're not able to respond when they're hearing their name called. Maybe they have hearing issues or maybe they're scared. And so typically it's we talk about specifically autism and wandering, but people, specifically children, because that's who we're talking about today, who have disabilities, it's a different type of search we're going to do for those kids. And there's different types of alerts. really interesting, and I just found this out from, I don't mean just like recently, I mean I found it out because I work in the field, but there is a thing called Angel Sense, which is essentially a GPS tracker for kids with disabilities. So if they do go missing and they can't communicate, you can track them with a GPS connected to your phone or things like that. So and those are also automatically connected to the police department, so the police get a notification as well, which is really helpful. But other issues are child sex trafficking, family abductions, like we've just talked about, infant abductions, which is more rare, but not completely unheard of. Children who are missing from care. So when they're in the care of someone else and then they go missing. And then endangered runaways. So this would be someone who is running away and there's a concern that they're being trafficked or that they have a health issue or that there's something going on. And then other types of missing. They've got like 30 categories and it says other types of missing. And like,
do you know how long the time period is until a person is considered missing? For children, is it immediate? And then adults, it's like 72 hours or something? Do you know?
So I know, I believe, I don't want to misspeak. I believe it really depends on what jurisdiction that you're in. I know all of us have heard the missing at least 24 hours. But I also think that that's if someone's just poof gone. If someone has witnessed an abduction, they know.
Of course, that's a different story. Yeah.
So let me Google that. Dr. Google's going to help us out because, like I said, I do think it has changed.
It probably, and it probably does vary somewhat.
Yeah, and one of the first things that came up for was where. So this is what this says. According to Quora, which is just like Reddit, it's not a real thing. It says the maximum amount of time for a school-age child should be 4 days. But the 24 hours is kind of just a myth. So I think it really depends on the circumstances, depends on where you are. And then a lot of people just say, like, call the police as soon as you're concerned. The worst they're going to say is no, or they're going to tell you. But, on your end, if you have someone who's missing that you care about, just calling the police right away, and then they'll give you the advice on how long to wait. This person on this message board says that they were trained as a dispatcher and they were told that it was federal law that a missing person report can be taken at any time. But the laws vary from state to state.
Yeah, I mean, it's just interesting, that one case that we talked about where the brother B took the girl and the family didn't report it. And I'm like, what are you people crazy?
Yes. So for New Jersey, there's not a specific amount of time. You can report it any time. And then I think the time frame is more of what the police need to do, like what steps they have to take versus like, if they saw an abduction, calling the FBI, calling in other resources versus looking for themselves and things like that. But in our state, it is you do not need to wait 24 hours. You can report it at any time. The first 48 hours, as we know, are the
TV
most
show.
Crucial. Oh, well, I'm sure you listened to the podcast about that and how it's not quite as what it looks like, the first 48. But yes, that number is not just arbitrary. There are lots of factors into that. But if you're thinking also for a child or for someone who is young and vulnerable, a lot can happen in 48 hours.
Yeah.
And then just thinking like whoever is taking them, like, how close to state lines are they? Or just, if it's a parental abduction, like how quickly can they get on a plane? Like, because once they move out of state, that's a whole nother animal, as we've talked about before.
Yeah.
So you mentioned before the milk carton, the girl on the milk carton, that was Jonelle Matthews. She was the very first person to be put on a milk carton. And I don't know if you watched it, but I know I watched it. There was a movie called The Girl on the Milk Carton. Oh, what was her name? She was like a big deal actress in the 80s. Healy Martin. She was in The Girl in the Milk Cartons. That was a classic movie from the 80s that was, a warning to us all that your face is going to be in the milk carton if you go missing.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's just thing you think about. Like you're having your cereal and you look at the back and you would...
Well, and that was kind of the reasoning behind that is what is something that most people have in their home? What is a way to reach out to people who maybe aren't watching the news or aren't looking at certain channels or things like that? Most people have a carton of milk in their home, so we can advertise.
I wonder why that stopped. I wonder why they got rid of that. Like it seems still like it would be relevant because not everybody's looking at the internet. Not everybody's looking at the news. Our phones give us those Amber Alerts in the immediate circumstance, but in the long term, I don't know, somebody who went missing 4 years ago and they've done an age reconstruction, So
according to Wikipedia, it declined in use because they did they followed it, and they said the campaign actually didn't result in locating missing children any sooner.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh,
So
they tried. It didn't work out. That's how a study is done, right?
Essentially, they did it for a while. They tracked it, but it wasn't leading to any quicker recovery of these children or any quicker finding of them or getting more tips. So they just felt like it really wasn't worth it. And then, according to this, one of the first real life people was Eitan Potts, who that's also like another famous true crime case where he was a little boy who was abducted and then found killed shortly thereafter. And then Adam Walsh, his case followed shortly thereafter.
Right. Yeah. That's the whole thing. Walsh. And then he went on to go do all of his stuff and helping other people.
Yeah. And I think that's part of it too, that like we really haven't talked about too much, but I think for me, loving true crime and murder shows and all that stuff, I think for me, the scariest thing is when someone just disappears. Whether it's an abduction or someone disappears or they just don't come home and you never hear from them, or they're on a plane that disappears, like that, just not having that closure just feels so heart-wrenching. Because you're constantly wondering, like you never really get to know what happens. And I think that's got to be really impactful on the family and really probably shapes the way that they parent other children if they have them, or the way they move about in the world. It's really got to have a severe psychological impact on people.
Yeah, I see that happening a lot too with like those certain killers or certain people who would go after specifically young women who may be working in sex trades and things like that. That was it the Long Island?
Yes, the Gilgo Beach murders.
Gilgo Beach. Yeah, and a lot of those girls, no one really knew what happened to them until they found some of these bodies and they started putting the pieces together. But they weren't all reported missing because their families just figured, oh, they're just somewhere on the street. And,
Or the other part of it, too, is they did report them missing, but they weren't taken seriously because they were engaged in sex work. Which, for the record, sex work is work.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we need to pull the judgment away from that.
There was another case too in the Oranges in New Jersey, something along those lines too. It was women who were specifically
there was a serial killer. He killed 3 women. Yes. Yeah. And that wasn't that long ago. That was in like 2015, 2016, around there. Yeah.
Exactly. But a lot of times you're right. They're not taken seriously, like because of whatever people's judgment. I don't care if you're on drugs. I don't care if you're in sex work. I don't care whatever. If you're a person and there are people who care and are looking for you, then that's all that matters.
Right. And I think on that same topic, there's lots of other vulnerable people, LGBTQIA folks. A lot of times when their families come to present them for missing, they're not taken seriously, or there's a lot of judgment around that. So like thinking really women of color, women of indigenous origin. Thinking about, our status and our privilege and how that's will count against us. The missing white girl syndrome is a real thing, unfortunately. And luckily, a lot of families of those white girls who have gone missing have spoken out about bringing light to other cases as well. So at least they're using their pain to help other families. But it's still a really big thing that's out there. And I think it's easy for us to not pay attention to that when we don't know anyone who's missing or we're not interested in true crime. But it's something that families go through every day. So it's really something to kind of be thankful for. Hug your babies. Now I'm quoting JonBenet Ramsey's mom.
Oh, God.
Sorry.
That's a whole nother thing.
I'm not going to cover that because that's too much true crime.
Too true crime.
Too much true crime. I got to find the ones that are psychologically based, which there's plenty. So I've got
there
lots
are plenty.
to work with. Yeah. So that's all I've got for today. Those links will be in the show notes. Especially check out the links to the International Center for Missing and Exploited Children, called Global Missing Kids, or just missingkids.org for the U.S. Because I think it's just important just to know the stuff. If, God forbid, you ever need it, you know where to go. You know what to find out.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can look up, I'm sure they have pictures and age progressions on there, and you can look up in your area.
Yep. And there's also some safety tips on there about especially online safety, because we know that online grooming and online abductions are a thing. So there's a lot of good resources out there for parents or just for people who are curious about how to keep our world safer.
Do you know, this is one last thing that I just thought of. There was a big thing for a while. Go get your kid like fingerprinted and their picture taken and all that. I don't hear about that nowadays. Is that still...
It's a thing for special needs children. I think that's probably why it got rolled back a little, because the agencies were getting overwhelmed with just all children, when I think it's more important for children who maybe have communication needs or other limitations that would prevent them from getting help if they were
Right.
missing or abducted. So I
Right.
recently went to an autism event, and they did have their local police there printing out ID cards, taking fingerprints, all that
Right.
stuff, free of charge.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that it does make sense for a very specific population.
Yeah.
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense.
And there's lots of, special populations where you can get special ID cards, where if you do need help and you don't know how to communicate that, you can just pass out the card. So I used to work in brain injury, and there's certain organizations that'll print out little cards that will say, I am brain injured, I have difficulty communicating. And then on the back, it'll have their family's contact information. They just have to hand over the card to someone. Or if you know about this and you see someone who seems in distress, ask them if they have that card, and then you can help them in that way.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah, there's lots of really great resources out there to keep people safe.
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely check out the show notes for more information on that.
Yes.
And don't run away from home and hide in your boyfriend's cupboard.
Yeah, I would not do that ever. I mean, that sounds really cramped and I wouldn't enjoy it.
Oh,
it was such a bizarre story, and I kept waiting for a punchline, and there was none.
Yeah.
And then I said, then she passed away. So it's kind of anticlimactic. Maybe eventually the former husband now will come out and share more of what was going on, but maybe not. I mean, they're entitled to their privacy. It's a big question mark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, another episode in the books.
Yes.
All right. So thank you for listening to Medical Media Mixer.
The perfect cocktail. Cheers.
Cheers.
This one is good. We should think about making it our perfect cocktail.
I have to try it.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Medical Media Mixer podcast. If you enjoyed the conversation, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us on your favorite podcast platform. Your support helps others find the show. Want to keep the conversation going? Follow us on social media. We're at Medical Media Mixer Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and on Pinterest, the Medical Media Mixer board.
If you'd like to support the show and help us grow, check us out on Patreon, patreon.com/Medical Media Mixer Podcast. And on Buy Me a Coffee, buymeacoffee.com/Medical Media Mixer Podcast. If you have a topic idea, feedback, or just want to say hi, send us an email at medicalmediamixer@gmail.com. You can also stream all of our episodes and find more info on our website, medicalmediamixer.podbean.com. We're available on all major podcast platforms, so no matter where you listen, we're there. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, keep mixing medicine and media.